Welcome to Technically Speaking, the show for the technically challenged. My name is Stephanie, and today we're talking about teens and technology, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm joined by two very special guests today, moms of teens, who happen to be very close friends of mine and have been since our kids have been babies. My first guest is Maureen Mitchell, how I've known since, well, I guess we met when the boys were 9 months old. And now how old are they?
15 and 10.
Okay, we can't possibly have known each other for 15 years. That's scary. And we timed it very well having a second boy exactly 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so our sons are 2 days apart and 2 months apart.
2 months apart.
We were very good. And we met at the swimming pool, and probably later that afternoon, we met Laura Kent at the playground.
Yes, we did.
And Laura, you have two boys?
Yeah, they're twins, and they're 15 years old.
Okay, so this is the
Double
15-year-old boy table.
Yeah.
And if we need to incense a girl, I have a 17-year-old girl, so I have my own, handfuls at home also. When I first asked you on, it was to talk about teens and technology. But even before that, now we've known each other for 15 years, and the whole world is different because of technology. I think before we even started, I made a comment that I don't even know if we had a cell phone. But I think you mentioned we did have a cell phone, but it was like this big.
Yes.
And we didn't actually use it because it would cost you, I don't know, $10 a minute to even use the phone. I don't know, my husband had a beeper when I was pregnant.
Mine too.
And I know our viewing audience has no idea. Well, maybe they do remember what the beeper was, but that's what they had, just in case you went into labor or something. And you had a cell phone that you didn't even know the number to. I mean, you weren't going to give that number out, and you couldn't fit it in your purse. And now, if I said, what's in your purse right now, without embarrassing yourself?
The first thing we worry and we have is our cell phone.
You can't leave the house without it.
No, and I've gone back to my house when I've realized I didn't have it.
Okay, how far away were you when you went back?
A couple exits sometimes on the expressway, and if I'm at work and I realize I left my phone, I'm done.
Oh, God.
You never know who's going to be calling, especially the school.
Well, that's the thing. If the school calls, I mean, thank God, if the school calls, you have a phone with you. I'm not quite sure what our parents did if the school called. I mean, my mother worked. I guess they called her office, but if she was, in the store or something, I guess we just kind of sat there and wallowed in the nurse's office all day. So we all have a cell phone, which, if you're anything like me, you don't just use for making calls.
No.
I can't live without the calendar.
The calendar.
Oh, that saved my life. Well, now we each have a calendar.
Okay, do you have them all embedded so you can see what everyone else is doing at the same time?
I do. Each family member has a calendar, and then they're all connected so that we can each see what the other one is doing. And that's a relatively recent thing. Even my 10-year-old has it on his iPod Touch.
Really?
Yes.
Now, is your family good about putting their events in the calendar?
Well, I am. We're still working on the rest of them.
Because I'll sometimes have someone announce, my husband will announce, oh, well, on Tuesday I'm doing such and such, and I say, I didn't see it in the calendar.
Yes, that's exactly how it goes.
What's your favorite feature on a cell phone?
I would have to say the text messaging,
Okay.
because being a working mom, sometimes it's really important for me to reach out, like what's going on at your sports event, what time do I have to pick you up? If I'm at work, I'm a teacher, and I know,
Right.
I'm running late. So I have to say, and I guess everybody, my family, it's the text. We text each other sometimes if I'm cooking dinner. My boys are in the basement. What time is dinner? I mean, it's gotten bad.
It's easier than screaming down the stairs.
That's true.
You know what I like about texting, because, we all work. You could text at work. You can't be making phone calls. You're in a classroom all day
Right.
long. But you could surreptitiously receive, I was at a meeting this morning, and I got a text message I had to pick up my daughter. Now, I had my phone on silent because I was at a meeting, but it still kind of buzzed, so I read it, and I was able to respond and do what I needed to do without calling huge amounts of attention to myself, which was good, because you can't pick up the phone all the time.
Right.
Of course, I like solitaire, words with friends.
Candy Crush.
Candy Crush.
Well, I like being able to text his friends' parents. I'm running late. Can you grab my son after school? And I don't have that panic. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to get there in time. Right. And he's never worried because he knows
Got it covered.
All of his friends are there, and one of those parents is going to stay with him until I get there. It's perfect.
So these are the good things about technology.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now the downside.
It never goes away.
Well, yeah.
It's always out.
And people expect, if somebody texts you or emails you or calls you and you don't respond within 5 minutes, they get really kind of annoyed about it. Now,
Or worried.
You're being very kind.
Okay.
Now, I admit I expect my children to respond all the time, but there are other ones that I'm like, down, relax, you know?
Yeah. I find that immediate gratification is definitely something that is a downside. Because, like, I am in the classroom, so I can't even text if I'm with my students. I would want to.
Well, you have little students,
right,
too, so that's all
yeah, and so, you know, obviously, and even sometimes, like, I'm with someone, like, right now, and I'm having a conversation.
Yes, we should not be texting on the air.
Yeah, we should be texting on the air. But, yeah, so it's definitely, and I tell my boys that, too. Like, they'll sometimes have maybe a problem or something, and they'll text someone, and I'm like, give it time to, like you said before, cool off.
Right.
Cool down, give them time to think about the situation. Don't keep it going on a text.
Yeah, well, we were talking about people misconstruing a text or an email, and this is one thing that I think is a huge problem with kids and kids fighting because they no longer say things just to a person. I mean, if I have a problem with you, I should just tell you. Yeah, I should.
Not that that's ever happened.
But they don't do that anymore. No. They send, you know, a kind of innuendo and this and that, and they get all their friends involved. Now, I just had a huge problem, and it wasn't even the kids. This was a grown-up problem. And it started with a group email collecting money for an end-of-the-year gift for a coach. And that sounds like a lovely idea. Well, 78 emails later, no joke, 78 emails in this stream, and who was offended by this, and this one wanted to drop out, and this one wasn't going to do it. These were grown-ups. And I kind of looked at it and said, you know what, our kids have no chance. Well, you know, of course they're going to have problems with social media and with friendships and relationships because this was a bunch of 40-year-olds who were a mess in an email. So I think our kids are a mess. I mean, I'm thank God, grateful that they're not so bad ours, but it's got to be rough for them.
Well, my son uses Uvu.
Okay.
It's kind of like
video?
Skype.
Okay.
It's video, yeah, it's video chat. And I wasn't even sure he was using it. You know, he said, oh yeah, that's right there on the bottom of the screen. You see the Uvu link. I'm like, well, explain this to me. And I felt kind of stupid because my 15-year-old is explaining technology to me. It was a little embarrassing, I might say so. And there's so much, it's coming out so fast, I can't keep on top of it, and that's a problem.
Well, that's the thing. Right. I mean, today it's Uvu, tomorrow it's going to be something else. And they pick it up.
Yeah.
It's like Facebook. As soon as Facebook got cool, it's no longer cool for the kids because all of us are on Facebook. Yes. So they don't want to be there, so they've moved on to something else. And we're just much slower about picking things up, and they pick it all up. Now, is he using Uvu in, I don't want to say responsibly, irresponsibly, social?
Totally responsibly. He's talking to his friends at night. They're going over homework. This is what I know about. I don't doubt that Minecraft has slipped in there occasionally, you know, so that's
I know
fine.
my son does homework over, and my daughter, they do homework on that.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have that, you know, if I ever wanted to say, you know what, I'm banning the cell phones after, it would actually be hurting them because that's how they find out what's on the test and what's going on, and they study together.
There have to be clear guidelines, and that comes from us. And my kids have been good about it. The 10-year-old, not so much, but we're working on it. And he follows his big brother's lead a lot, which helps immensely because his big brother, you know, he's a good kid, and he does follow the guidelines. So he knows it's expected, and hopefully the 10-year-old will catch on quick.
Of course, the prime example for the kids is us.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to incriminate ourselves by whether or not we are a good or a poor example of using technology, but none of us at this table should ever have to know how much it costs if you get caught on a cell phone while driving. But, you know, I started thinking about that now. My daughter is driving. And for the whole year before she started driving, I made a huge, huge effort not to have a phone, not that I would be talking on the phone while I was driving, but I made a big deal when she turned 16 of saying to her when she was in the car, honey, can you hold my cell phone so that if Daddy calls, you can answer. I made a big production out of it because I felt like I'm sure that between the time she was 0 and 15, she's seen me do things that I would not want to see her doing while driving. And once she turned 16, I was very concerned about it. So now I do. I give her the cell phone. I'll say, send a text for me or whatever, because I really am trying to I'm trying to clean up 15 years of mess. But do you think that there are other ways that we can be a good example or that we've been a bad example?
Well, I tell my children from when they were little, it's the World Wide Web. It's www. So anything they put on, they can't take back. It could always be traced. And I said, because it can go anywhere. So put something on that you'd be proud of or you wouldn't be embarrassed by. Because when you get older, and they look at Facebook or they look at Instagram, they don't want to see a picture of you doing something silly,
right.
because they do look at that. And I mean, as they get older, you know, I'm stressing that more and more. So I try to keep my Facebook. I do keep my Facebook.
You do?
I
I've
do,
seen
yes. Very family and friend oriented. I think that's, you know, how I am. I try to be anyway. I think we all are overall like that. And I tell them I don't want to put anything on that would hurt or embarrass anyone, even kidding around, because it's out there.
It is out
and
there.
You have to remember that.
And you know, the kids now, our sons are all 15, so applying to college is right around the corner, and the colleges are now looking at those types of things. They will absolutely, for admissions or scholarships, look at a student's Facebook profile, their Twitter feeds. They will do a Google search. If the child is out there posting, you know, questionable materials, it could absolutely impact on their future. And kids don't think that. They think, you know, that's the future.
Yeah, it is a hard thing though, because it's advancing, like Maureen said, and you said so rapidly that, you know, sometimes, and they're still, even though they're 15 years old, they're still teenagers and they're still children with certain things. And it's changing, so change is, you know, can lead to problems sometimes.
Do you see your kids kind of, I'll say, addicted to technology, and do you think that we're sort of, I mean, I know I'm addicted to technology. Heck, I have a show called Technically Speaking, so I must be addicted to technology. Do you think that there are things that we have done or could do better, perhaps? Because I see them, I mean, they will walk around with a cell phone in their hand, but then again, so do we.
Right.
We put away the cell phones at dinner.
Okay.
Now, we may not always be at the dinner table together. That's a whole separate issue. But put away the cell phones. We're at the table together, let's just sit and talk. I mean, I get up when my son goes to school in the morning, even though I don't have to, because that might be the only time I see him all day. So we definitely put the phones away.
Right.
When we go out to dinner, though, that's
a big thing.
Yeah.